Oh shit. One second. We're gonna be with you soon. We are currently experiencing technical difficulties. One second. There's the first one. Okay, and there is the second one. Hopefully, there we go. Okay, I forgot to turn on the cameras, which I should know by now. That's something I really should know by now. So, yeah, welcome everyone. Another Sunday live stream. As you can see in chat, Nightbot is already in here. Now, what I'm going to try today is something that doesn't have anything to do with 3D printing. It sort of does. As you might have seen from the title, Am I blurry? No. I want to talk about me being a YouTuber, what it takes, what my processes are, what my gear are, what I'd recommend if you want to get into YouTubing. And, you know, we're not going to be talking about 3D printing today. So that's just be warned. That's just what I sort of wanted to do for a while, just have a nice casual Q&A with you guys on, you know, YouTube and making videos and being a full-time YouTuber and content producer and kind of blurry. I don't know why that is. I might be slightly out of focus, but whatever. Most of you guys aren't watching in 1080p anyway, so whatever. What you might have also noticed is the chat actually popping up on screen. After the after the live stream, let me know in the actual YouTube comments if that is a good thing or not. Because Twitch is sort of cool. It has chat replay. YouTube is not that advanced. It doesn't give you a chat replay. So I sort of just have to put it in the video stream itself. So yeah, it's not bandwidth. It's probably the camera just out of focus. So yeah, again, today, not much about the 3D printing world on itself, but about YouTube and content production, that sort of thing. So again, ask your questions in chat. I do have a question. I do have an eye on that. So, right. Let's start out, I guess. It's going to be hard keeping an eye on chat. I will try. Okay. I am a full-time YouTuber. Or I sort of need that name badge. Hi, my name is Thomas Sanadra, and I am a full-time YouTuber and content creator. So, for about 3 years, I've been doing this entire. I'm not on Twitch. For 3 years, I've been doing this entire YouTube thing of producing videos. Oh, is it 3 years already? Holy crap! Producing videos about 3D printing, and that started out with a passion for 3D printing in itself. And a need that I saw of people, getting that basic info. How do I level a bit? How do I tune in my extruder? How do I set up a firmware? So that was something I was seeing, particularly in the Google Plus community, being asked as a recurring question. Just those same questions. And I wanted something where people could just go and, learn about it. And I sort of wanted to get into video at the same time, so that's what I did. Now, ever since I started, my process has been changing and evolving. The first video I actually shot was never published. I took those files, I looked at them, I went like, no way I'm publishing this. And I still have them, but I never touched them, I never did anything with them. So what I ended up doing is, having a very discrete process. So, for example, a review. Let's actually pull this one up as an example because that's going to be one of the next videos. The Ultimaker 3. I got the machine, I unboxed it live, and I'm using it. I'm just using the printer. I'm trying to figure things out. I'm trying to learn about the machine. When it's a review, that is step number 1. If it's a guide, obviously I don't know everything by heart either. I don't know, all the options in the most current Marlin or, all the details, the nitty-gritty details on things. So I do have to read up on those as well. I do have to experiment. I do have to, I do have to put the effort in before I can actually start working on the content. And that is step number 1. Step number 2 is just, plotting out my thoughts, making a full script. Actually, I might be showing you a few screen caps every now and then, but let's keep this guy sort of in frame. But I will, I will just start out, plopping down thoughts in an unstructured way. And then, if it's a review, if it's a big review like the Ultimaker or the Mark I machine, that's going to take me a full day, of just scripting out the entire thing. Because the camera you are seeing right now is actually my teleprompter camera, which, well, it's the camera inside a teleprompter. I actually do show that thing in another video, and I think it's called Behind the Scenes or something. So, teleprompter. I read off my scripts because I know how I need to write them for them to sound right. And because I am not a native speaker, I sort of really like to rely on just having that script written out beforehand. So that gets filmed. That's usually around 30 minutes of footage with like redos and retakes and stuff. That gets filmed. And from then, it gets edited. Obviously, it gets edited down into something that's watchable. And yeah, that's where the hard part starts, or the work-intensive part starts. Because after that, I add all the B-roll. Actually, watch back my A-roll. So A-roll being what you're seeing right now, me talking head, more or less. And I make a list of all the shots I need. During testing, I usually collect a bunch of shots, just, the machine doing different things or the software doing a few different things. And I go through all those scenes that I talk about and think about what do I need to, visualize what I'm talking about. And that's usually for a full review. That's another full day of work, shooting everything and editing it down. That's a big part of the process as well. And after that, obviously, it gets edited into one single video. And from then on out, color correction, all the usual things, audio processing. And in the end, it gets published. So, depending on I just spilled a bit there. Yeah. Depending on what sort of video you are looking at, reviews are the most work-intensive things, actually. It can be like 3 days or 3 or 4 days of work of, well, if you add in the testing, it's probably more than that. So as I was saying, the most important things if you want to start making videos of any kind, whether it's for YouTube or not, is audio. Yes, sound, as the sound cuts out. Yes, I know that is ironic, but that's just the way it is. Audio first, because literally every point and shoot can produce great video. Let me actually just scroll down here. This happens every stream. Yes, I actually did. Okay. So audio-wise, what? Nope. There we go. Audio-wise, what I'm using is a Rode Link or Rode Filmmaker kit, and these should have autofocus now. I think I figured out how to turn on autofocus on this camera, and it's trying. It's not getting there. Come on. Okay. Rode Link, wireless audio, lav mic, and now I have a battery. So that goes into an audio recorder. I just found that to be the best solution for me. You can sort of get away with recording directly into the camera, but it's just, it's easy. Yeah, a lot of people do it, but it's not the best result. You can get away with it. But literally, camera-wise, if you want to get a camera for video, for YouTube, any camera does it. If it's a point and shoot, I'm using these Panasonic DSLMs, mirrorless cameras, G6, the G7 now, which has the HDMI output and also does 4K. These are awesome. They're probably way overkill for what I'm doing, so whatever. Not a time to brag about audio hardware. That is not an H6, that is an H4, and it just has, you know, USB plugged into the computer. Totally fine. Right. Yes, so I do record audio separately from the video. So the cameras have just their built-in microphones up top. It's probably behind chat, but these just have, well, it's not showing on this one. That's essentially the same camera. It's trying. You know, any DSLR, any DSLM will have a built-in microphone just up here. It's okay for scratch audio. It's okay for sort of the, you know, if you don't need anything special from it, but it's just going to sound horrible if you move more than like 2 feet away from the camera. So yes, I record separately onto the H4 and then sync that onto the original track, and that just gives really good audio. Groginaut2 is actually asking, hey, did I see the glasses microphone mod? Yes, I actually used it the last 2 streams, just had the microphone in here. Works awesomely. Roman Edward Vlogs, that's probably a fake account. Do I recommend the ANET A8? I'm not talking about 3D printers today. Okay. Right, audio first. Focus on audio first, you know, just use a lav mic or, you know, at least something like a shotgun microphone, but just don't do onboard. Editing, yes, I talked about editing briefly, about, you know, my entire process of bringing in footage and then doing a first edit of me and then adding on B-roll on top of that. And for that I use Adobe Premiere Pro, Adobe Creative Cloud. It's like a $60 monthly thing. But it just does everything I need. People keep telling me, yes, Blender can edit, this free software can edit. But for me, since this is my job, since I do spend, I don't know, probably 20 or more hours a week in Premiere Pro, just editing stuff, I need to be efficient with that. And any sort of software that is less efficient than that is going to cost me time, which means less videos, which means money, essentially. And we will be getting into that as well. Now, what else do you sort of need as a YouTube dude guy? That would be a bit of light. So up here, I think I showed in the behind the scenes as well. Up here, I just have a few fluorescent tubes. There's a fluorescent. There is a softbox. Doesn't really matter as long as you have some good light. That's okay. So what else? Lighting, yeah. Now, For each hour of video shot, there's 8 hours of editing. That is probably, if it's just editing, yes, maybe, probably. If that's actually, I think that is actually pretty efficient editing if you're just doing 8 hours, 8 hours of editing for each hour of footage. For me, it's much more than that, because my videos are typically like 10 minutes. That would imply that it's a bit over an hour of editing. It's more than that. It's probably like 3 or 4 hours for a 10-minute video that I just spent editing. So depending on what sort of production you're working on. If you're just doing super simple stuff, then maybe, yeah, but I don't, I'm not that efficient yet. Let's put it that way. So yeah, editing plus scripting plus all that sort. What light value in Kelvin am I using? I'm just using the 6500 Kelvin. So these are 865, or no, these are actually 965. So if you're looking at a fluorescent tube, it's going to have that 3-digit number. It's going to have, these are 965. You can also get 865 or 940. So the first digit is the color reproduction percentile, more or less. So not percentile, percentage. It's a percentage versus the sun or incandescent bulbs. The higher the better. So like cheap LEDs are like 70 CRI, color rendition index. A standard fluorescent tube is like 80, and the better ones are 90. These are less efficient, but they do tend to render colors, especially like skin tones, a bit better. So that's what I use, and I white balance accordingly. People talking about 3D printing, sweet. Jonas5 is asking, how much time does it take to share videos on different social media, marketing-wise? Do I think about those things? So actually, I am doing pretty much zero paid marketing or paid advertising for this channel. I'm not spending a single dollar. Is that correct? I think it is. I'm not spending a single dollar on like Facebook ads or YouTube ads or Google ad. It's not AdSense. It's AdWords. That's the other half of the service. I'm not advertising with that at all. So I do post my content to Google+, to Twitter, to Facebook, and you should definitely follow me follow me there. Probably have a pop-up down here at some point in the stream. And yeah, I use Buffer for that. Buffer is a service where you can more or less manage all your social networks, because you do have to be on every one essentially. And you just make a post and you say, okay, I want this published. Then we make one post and it publishes to all the social networks and then brings in the comments. So that's really efficient. That's really good. And I'd recommend it if you want to be a social media wizard as well. It's a great service. Right. Sweet. So it looks like yeah, it looks like the questions are mostly done. So Nadim is commenting the cameras I'm showing. You can see the one over here, the close-up. They aren't DSLRs. Yes, they aren't DSLRs. They are DSLMs. That's the G7 I use, plus the USB video capture device there. Works pretty okay. And Micro Four Thirds Lumix, really awesome. By the way, if you want to check out any of the gear I'm talking about, link in the video description. I have a full list of all the stuff, including my editing PC, which is another totally different story, on my website. So let's, 3D printing guru. One last question before we move on. What software do you use for streaming? Right now, I'm using OBS Studio. Awesome software, free, highly recommended. Okay. Ethics. What sort of content? I guess it sort of ties into that. So the ethics of being a YouTuber and being a journalist in the widest sense. Just today I got like the letter from the, what is it here in Germany, the Künstlersozialkasse, which is like the social security for artists and journalists. And they were like, yes, you are a journalist. By definition, you have to like join our service, stateside service, more or less. And just just that acknowledgement of being, yes, of getting that that positive reinforcement, yes, you are officially a journalist, sort of, has me thinking, yes, I do have a responsibility, especially if you're looking at what's going on in the States right now with like media being called out and stuff. I do have, as a person, I do have a responsibility of trying to be neutral, of trying to cover facts and products, we are talking about reviews and stuff, in a way that is non-biased. As much as I am human, as much as I am biased by nature, a lot of YouTubers, MKBHD actually just talked about it, and The Verge had an article on it. As a person, you are always biased, which is why it's important to not just rely on one opinion, which is why it is important to not just have one YouTuber on a subject. And that's exactly why I value channels like the 3D Printing Nerd or Maker's Muse and all the other 3D printing YouTubers that much, because they provide second opinions on stuff I review, on stuff I look at. That is important to keep in mind. However, it is my responsibility to paint a neutral, a non-biased picture on things. So I am trying that. I do have to try that. And I think, being recognized as a journalist sort of puts a legal requirement on me for that as well. I don't know, but again, that's what I tried to do. On that topic, I did make some notes beforehand. I do have a note in here saying, I would consider reviewing a MakerBot. Yes, actually, if someone from MakerBot is watching, I'd be happy to review one in as much of an unbiased fashion that I can do it. It would actually be interesting how well they actually stack up against other offerings. The entire controversy of MakerBot aside, it would be interesting to see how well they stack up. Yeah, and Stephen is asking, what is the hardest and the easiest thing to do, or the hardest and the easiest things about YouTube? So that ties in there. The fact that you have to override your personal instincts, your personal favors, or the fact that you are by nature favoring certain things over others, and you have to sort of go into the mindset of, okay, who would be using a Mark IV, Mark II? Who would be using an Ultimaker 3, because this is a 3,600-ish money unit machine? Who is this machine for, and is it a good choice for them? That's sort of what you have to do. That's sort of what you have to do every single time. You do have to put yourself, your human instincts aside. That's hard. The other hard thing is staying motivated, which is, I am self-employed. I don't work for anybody. I'm not an employee of anyone. I am working with people, but I'm not working as an employee for them. So I decide what I do, how I do it, when I do it, and just, putting yourself in a position where you're saying, okay, I'm going to be releasing a video every Tuesday and Thursday, which didn't really work out the last 2 weeks, but I'm going to be releasing 2 videos per week plus make a stream on the weekend, and just work towards those goals. Finding a rhythm, finding yourself a pace to go with that. That is one of the hardest things about, not just being a YouTuber, but about being a self-employed person. So yeah, Mark Davis is asking, am I making a decent living doing YouTube videos? Again, I will get into that in a second. So Shenzhen, yes, that is something I should definitely check out eventually. Now, to catch up on the entire ethics and neutrality and stuff topic, you might have noticed I have been doing a few sponsored videos. So for the printer kit, which is over there, the Printer Pro printer kit, that was more or less just okay, you show the printer guide and you're going to get sponsored for those videos. What else did I do? E3D, the assembly guide for the Ultimaker 2 toolhead upgrade. That was just content they wanted to have. I was like, yeah, sounds like fun. Let's do that. There is always a condition applied to those sponsorships, which I think many people can relate to, and that is my opinion is going to stay my own. If you watch through those videos or through those sponsored videos, you will never hear me saying in the sponsored message or in a review that is connected to that brand in some fashion, you will never have me advertise the product with this is the best or this is the coolest, or I show the products and that's it. I don't get paid for opinions. That is something I sort of have to adhere to, I feel like. Anything I say, anything that is an opinion is my own and is not going to be affected by sponsored videos, by sponsored content, by being able to keep a machine after a review. I've destroyed machines that I've gotten to keep and literally taken them apart afterwards. So that's that's something that I always want to maintain. Viewers first, and what also ties into that, putting viewers first. That's how I started. That's sort of the ethic I want to maintain. The most important thing on YouTube is you guys. It's not the sponsors. It's not the YouTube platform. It is people that want to watch your content. And I try to achieve that by producing quality content that helps people, either with teaching them things or with helping them make a purchasing decision with a review. That's my motivation. That is my core goal. How I achieve that? By making a decent living with sponsors, YouTube AdSense, and affiliate links. If that works for me, that's perfect. And but I will always maintain that core goal of working for you guys. So yeah. And along those lines, I do publish as Creative Commons. If you didn't know, I do oh, that is actually over the chat. Interesting. I do publish my content as Creative Commons because, again, it's for you guys. It's I got so much from the community that I got to use. Entire 3D printing things. Every 3D printer I have here is based on community work, so that is my way to give back, and that's how I can sort of, give back to the community. Also, something I always want to maintain is having 100% original content. So everything I produce, everything you see on this channel is my own. It's not taken from anyone else. It's not downloaded from somewhere except music, yes, but I do give attribution there. And, original content and content that is like copyright-wise is clean. So the music you heard in the beginning of the stream, that is David Cutter. He provides music for free. Or if you purchase his music, essentially, you also get to use it on YouTube. And, that's exactly what I'm doing here. So, yeah. Be clean, be clean when it comes to copyright, when it comes to the content you create. That's my ethics, that's my motivation. So next up, I would like to move on to if you are getting into YouTube, if you are getting into video making for whatever topic. So let's check chat first. Rob Scanlon is saying, Scanlon? Help Tom, click that like button. Thank you. How did the TV gig go? 3D printed SP is asking. So if you didn't know, I was on TV, on Austrian TV, beginning of, it actually aired it aired last Monday, yeah. Which was like super, off. It wasn't in the main time frame where people would, or where people like me would be watching TV. It was like breakfast, entertainment, very casual, very. I don't want to offend sales TV here, but it wasn't the most like in-depth content. It was fine, it was okay, it was a fun thing. I don't think it did all that much, but if it like, they asked about 3D printed guns and that sort of thing. If it helped even just 5 people understand that 3D printed guns aren't a real threat, then I'm happy, then I did my job. So, Yeah, so Tom FC is asking, which is a great question. He's always wondering if there is something like a contract of employment while being a YouTuber. So, technically speaking, if you are a full-time YouTuber, you are self-employed, you're not working for anyone. Sometimes people think YouTube AdSense is your only... Actually, why didn't I cover that yet? Shit, thanks, Simone. Actually, if you start on YouTube, if you create a channel, you can now just enable monetization. You can become a YouTube partner immediately the second you start up. It used to be like 5,000 subscribers that you had to have before you can apply for partnership. Early on, that wasn't the case. Then for a while, they put that limit back in place, and now they removed it. So you can monetize your content. You can work for YouTube. You can work with YouTube to earn money on YouTube right away. And there isn't as much of a contract of employment like that, but there is a terms of service for using YouTube. First of all, for uploading content, there are certain things, including copyright. Let me know if you want me to get into that a bit more. There are a few certain things that you have to adhere to, including copyright, including the sort of content you publish, that sort of stuff. And they're even stricter if you are a YouTube partner and want to monetize your videos right on YouTube. So that's more or less your terms. There are also things like multi-channel networks, which are not employees per se, but partners that you can choose instead of being partnered with YouTube, as far as I understand it. They do work in mysterious ways, and I haven't looked into them that much, but that's probably the closest thing to having an employment as a YouTuber. So, yeah. But just to catch up on that, Harry Pessimism is asking, the whole thing was about 3D printed guns, referring to the TV gig. No, it wasn't. It was just, casually they saw 3D printing and that it was a thing, and 3D printed guns was one of the topics. They talked about that 3D printed village in China. They talked about practical prints. They talked about, the usual things that you'd ask about 3D printing. So, right. Yeah, I did post a link to that on Twitter recently. So YouTube analytics, people are talking about that. YouTube analytics, if you don't know, there is can violate YouTube terms of service. I'm not entirely sure about it, so I don't think I can actually show you that. But essentially, when you create a YouTube account, when you become a YouTube creator, you get access to YouTube Analytics, which shows you how many views you get, how many minutes of playback time you get, where your viewers are coming from. That might actually be the part that might not be great to show on public streaming. I don't know. Where your viewers come from, how much you make through AdSense. AdSense is the side of Google AdWords that you can use to monetize stuff. How much you get on AdSense, that entire thing. Do I rely on Google Analytics? Not really. I used to be much more into the analytics side of things, trying to understand stuff. But now it's just like, I know, okay, about 30% of my viewers come from the States, about 10 come from Germany, about 15% come from the UK. That's sort of the stuff I know, and I'm okay with it. I check analytics like maybe once a month. What I sort of look at is how many views do videos get, and the videos that get good views that people like, that's the stuff I try to make more of, and particularly that like counter. That's something I can really use as a that I can use to judge whether you guys are like literally that's what it does. If you're liking the entire video or not. Usually I go for 99% likes versus dislikes. That seems to be like the maximum you can get on YouTube. Some videos get 98, which I'm not that happy about. I would appreciate it, by the way, if you give dislikes to a video, whether it's the stream, because I know streams do get a bunch of dislikes usually because it's not regular scripted content. But yeah. But if I receive dislikes, I would really appreciate why those dislikes are given so that I can improve. I also do say that every now and then on the outros. Okay. Smith Patel, by the way, asking about whether or not I use the RAM's 1.4 in my CNC machine. That's like the 10th time he's asking that. Once would be okay, but as soon as I saw like the second or third time, I don't know. By the way, if you reply on the YouTube comments, if you go into the comments and you write a new comment, that shows up on my phone on YouTube Studio, that shows up on my YouTube notification feed. Some people think that by replying to topics that I've already or other creators have already replied to, they get a more they get notified of that more aggressively or have a higher chance of seeing it. Actually, the opposite of the case, because the way the YouTube notification system works is like replies to a thread are like completely hidden out of sight for the most part. You do see them, but they only show up in a few places and they're not really visible. So yeah, that's one of the misunderstandings there. A lot of stuff is getting deleted there. What printer is that behind me? We're not talking about 3D printing today. Right. So should we look into the YouTube analytics? So somebody's saying it's 100% okay to share. So I'm just gonna believe them, and if YouTube like gets at me, we can figure that out. Analytics. Why is this not in my suggested ones? Okay. So that is going to have a number in there about how much I make on AdSense. And as far as I know, a few other YouTubers have shown it before. It's not a huge secret when it comes to like how much YouTubers make, how much they earn on YouTube. There we go. That is exactly how much I made the last 28 days. If you notice, it's German. So yeah, that is. Can I turn myself back on? There we go. Okay, so that is exactly the numbers that I've been getting last month, essentially, on YouTube. And last month, I think I released like 10. It's probably more than 10 videos. Did 2 or so streams. You might see this huge spike right here, where people watched for an entire year. That was the TiVo Black Widow build. So you can see it's not doing that much for ads, but people are watching a whole ton of it. 13,000 comments. Yes, it is counting chat messages, so that's completely off. That's my stats. 1,430 euros in ad revenue. And you can sort of calculate that by how many views you get, how well your content is suited to advertisers. Some content is less suited for advertisers and will receive a lower CPM, which is somewhere over here, which is essentially how much you get paid for 1,000 views. some content does much better there, and there are sites out there that will give you estimates for various YouTubers. There are various sites that they give you estimates for different YouTubers. They give you the exact subscriber numbers, how much they gained, how many views they got. So basically the numbers you just saw right here, you can find on the internet for anyone. You can look up the other 3D printing YouTubers. It'll give you estimates roughly around these numbers. We're all doing pretty okay in that regard. We're not like making pennies off of YouTube. But again, if you look at that, 1,430 euros, that is like 1,000, depending on what the exchange rate is right now, it's like $1,600. That is minimum wage. Most definitely minimum wage, if it was only that. But thanks to you guys being awesome, thanks for you guys being supportive on Patreon, thanks to you guys using affiliate links, thanks to having sponsors, I can actually live off of YouTube. So that's the that's the calculation there. So again, just because you're seeing YouTube AdSense revenue doesn't mean that is all you have. So somebody's saying, yeah, he got discouraged of being a YouTuber. Don't be. And to me, those numbers aren't the most important thing. So, which is actually a good transition to the next topic I want to cover. So why would you want to be a YouTuber? Why would you want to get onto why would you want to get into YouTubing? Why would you want to do this? What I'm doing? I'm literally standing in a cool, coldish basement room, alone with 3 cameras around me. And chat. Okay, chat helps. But why would you want to do this? So for me, it like I said, it was that motivation outside of making money. I did get YouTube partnered pretty early on because I just decided to click that button. I had a few like RC car videos on there, which I was like, getting like 50 views. Sweet, let's get partnered. Let's make those 2 cents. But that sort of gave me the idea of, yes, you can make money off of YouTube if you grow enough. So yeah, that was one of the driving factors that made me decide, yes, this is something that can be done. But if you want to start a YouTube channel, or if you already have a small YouTube channel and want to keep it growing, want to keep it up, the advice I'd give is don't do it for the money. The money will come. Don't worry about that, unless you sort of have to rely on it, in which case you're stupid. If you start a YouTube channel and say, yeah, this is all I'm gonna make, it's gonna take a while until it's sustainable. But don't do it for the money. Do it because you want to show something you love, you're enthusiastic about. And for me, that was 3D printing. I still love 3D printing. I still think it's an awesome tool to have. It's not as great, as revolutionary as some people might put it, but it is an awesome technology, and it's enabling so many things. That is my drive. Excuse me. That is my driving factor. So in my case, that enthusiasm was about 3D printing. If you are enthusiastic about skateboarding, about what else? Mountain biking, about building models out of matches, do it. Have that as your motivation. Don't do it because you can sort of make a few cents off of it. Not going to happen. Again, the sponsors and the affiliate earnings, those are, I just showed you the YouTube earnings. Affiliate earnings are much better than that. So please keep using those Amazon, AliExpress, eBay, MetaX, and iGo3D links. That really helps me out a lot if you actually buy things through those. Again, that's just stuff that's coming over the years, over the months, over of experiencing or gaining experience on things. Yeah, do it because you have something you love and you want to show, and you actually care about this stuff. Now, there are a few things that, or there are a few approaches that some people take, and particularly if you're working for a corporation and they're saying, yeah, we need a YouTube channel. We want to be cool. We want to be hip. We want to have something on YouTube because YouTube's the thing to do. That's not going to work if you're not also finding someone within your company who's actually enthusiastic about this stuff. One of the channels I've been binge watching, I would like to apologize for wasting my time on that, is Haas Automation. They've got I don't have a CNC that is like anywhere near that class of what they're showing, but they are presenting it well. They're essentially for automated lathes, automated VMCs, vertical milling centers, that sort of stuff. They are teaching people how to use them and showing what can be done. And they found someone who explains it well, who shows a genuine interest in this stuff, and that is content that is great to watch. Yeah. Before I move on, before I ramble on too long about this, yes, you have something to show, you have something to teach, you have an enthusiasm for what you do. Absolutely. Coastal Labs is asking, do you ever feel like this is a chore, or are you always motivated to make videos? It is a job for me. It is my full-time job. So there are moments when I'm not enjoying editing a video and watching Premiere Pro crash for the 5th time. But the greatest thing is always seeing the end result. Actually, is this stuff getting? I think that the chat on video is looking pretty good. But as always, getting that video finished, being happy with the result, and just watching the entire thing back, that probably makes up for any moments that you get frustrated or you get discouraged. Because again, no matter what you do, no matter if it's YouTubing, engineering, working at McDonald's, there are going to be moments where you just feel like, why am I even doing this? And same here. It's a job. I'm really happy that it's working out this well for me, but there are moments where I'm questioning my sanity, but still, yeah. Yeah, NYC CNC, by the way, awesome guys too. If you want to start YouTube, what do you need? Again, I started out covering audio. Audio is really important. You sort of need an idea what you're going to do. Pro tip, make a plan, make a list of of video ideas. Just bounce them around. I use, what's it called? Trello. I use Trello for all my video ideas. Actually, when it's like 2 a.m., I'm lying in bed, my phone's still glowing, and I'm like, yeah, that could be cool. Put it in the long list. There's like probably 100 video ideas on there. So that cuts top of comments off randomly? I don't know. What was it? Yeah, plop your ideas into a list. Sort them by which ones you think will work, which ones you think won't work. Make a plan on which order you want to tackle them in. And if you're getting stuck on one, just break it down into, okay, I need to do this to achieve this entire video idea in the end. What is your job as a 3D printer maker? Pedro is asking. I am a maker. I am a 3D printer guy, but I'm not a 3D printer maker. I'm not a producer of 3D printers. I don't make and sell 3D printers. That's always been something I try to stay away from as much as possible, because first of all, it would interfere with like being neutral, and it's also just a job I don't think I would want. If you've ever worked in retail, if you've ever worked in engineering, the entire can of worms that you're opening up by actually releasing a product out into the public, which starts with getting that CE and FCC certification, not something I want to do. human contact with AdSense. No, so yeah, again, monetization. Monetization with AdSense. If you don't know how AdSense works, it's essentially, if you go on toms3d.org, which just got an overhaul, by the way, you're gonna see those Google AdSense blocks. You've probably seen them on the internet. It's the same service for YouTube. Have I ever had human contact? No. Have I ever had need for human contact? Not at all. Hari Wiguna is asking, how important is it to have the camera on you? He rarely has the camera on himself ever, which is totally fine. There are look at videos from this old Tony, also machining channel. He's doing, like, you know, in his home shop, lathe work, mill work, that sort of stuff, showing, you know, CNC router builds. You never see him in any of his videos. And that's perfectly fine. He does an awesome job of editing, of like framing, of doing video work. Awesome. Never see his face, but sometimes see his hands, but that's about it. I have the camera on me because it's easy footage. Right now, the only reason you're seeing me is because I have nothing better to show. Same on regular content. So don't have to do that. Definitely don't have to do that if you don't want to. What was the other one? How many other YouTubers do I watch? A few, but not so many on 3D printing, because I feel like it's idle time. The stuff they're talking about I already know, and I'm not learning anything. So sorry guys, I'm usually not watching it unless it's something really important or interesting. But I watch YouTubers outside of 3D printing a lot. Which was that other one? I thought yeah, 3 to 5 year plan. Did that get deleted? No, there we go. Justin Davido is asking, any 3 to 5 year plans for the show? Just going to see where it leads. So the thing is, I don't have a clue. That is something I will openly admit. For me, YouTube and video work has been a completely fresh start. So my background is engineer. I'm a mechatronics engineer. I did that for a year. I then went over to BQ. I could get into that entire story. I'm not gonna. But video work for me was a bit of a curiosity, a bit an area of interest, but it wasn't something that I learned. Neither was like managing a company. I sort of was self-employed for a while, just, you know, trying a few different things out. That was on the side, yes. But I don't really have 3 to 5 year plans. The way things are going right now, I might be looking into expanding the entire operation. I'm definitely looking into getting like an assistant or something this year or so, and maybe getting a few rooms, renting out an office, and seeing if I can find someone locally here or just generally interested in YouTube, and, you know, trying out a few different things. Maybe opening up a second channel. I already have a second channel, but maybe opening up a second channel that is really a different topic. I don't know. We'll see. For me, it's a fun ride, definitely. 500,000 subscribers in 3 years depends on how big the interest in 3D printing is, and depends on whether or not I screw up in the process, but let's hope I don't. There's too much spam on this chat. Thanks for that input. I did enable Nightbot. I did tune him down, but I don't know. Someone's asking, so yeah, custom RC tuning, how many percentage of my community, of my viewers are German? It's roughly 15%. The other one's asking, why am I not making German videos? Because nobody's watching them. I did try a few, and just the English ones got so many more views than the German ones. Because the thing is, Germans usually do understand English. The other way around is pretty difficult. Bum, 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 bum. Have you considered making a video series of making your machine? Yes, I have. I will be building a i3 style machine soon as the parts from China arrive, which might be 4 to 6 weeks. Don G is asking another question about monetization. Would you rather I added you to my Patreons or disable my ad blocker? So probably Patreon, because ad block doesn't, the thing with ad-based revenue is a single view is, I think, hold on, 0.3 cents or so per view. I'd rather have you enjoy my content and not get those 0.3, 0.6, 0.9 cents you're making with each view, and gain a patron. Gain an extra patron. That would be much more efficient than just disabling your ad block. I do have to admit I do use uBlock Origin as well. I don't get ads on YouTube, but I do support the people that I enjoy. So the name of my other channel, that channel is trash. That is literally just stuff that I have no other place to put. Leo Skinidis is asking, do 3D printing companies ever contact you for sponsorships? Yes, they do. I do receive a few questionable ones, and that ties into the entire ethics discussion that I tried to cover in its entirety early on. I do get a bunch of inquiries for, hey, we've got this Kickstarter. Hey, we are this new filament manufacturer from China. Hey, we've got this intuitive new software product, whatever, for your 3D printer, and we're a startup and we would like to be sponsored or sponsoring you. I do get those a lot. Thankfully, I am in a position where I get to pick who I accept as a sponsor and who I don't. So I am much more open to receiving sponsorship from companies that I personally believe can produce a good product. That is, for example, E3D, a Printer Pro. Well, they weren't really sponsoring me for a product, but I do have their product here, and it's pretty okay. Not wanting to sound biased there. It's pretty good. What else? Adam3D has talked to me. I can choose who I want to be sponsored by, and yes, I do get those inquiries quite a bit, and that's also one of the plans for 2017. Maybe get that a bit more consistent. Work with people or work with manufacturers and just make quality contents with them. For example, with the Printer Pro guys, the videos I produced as sponsored content, more or less, with them, I think we're really popular. We're really good, helpful content, and that's the sort of stuff I want to keep on making. What university did I attend? I attended the Deggendorf Institute of Technology, Technische Hochschule Deggendorf. I don't know why they have to go for that Institute of Technology thing. It sounds stupid because they aren't the MIT. Okay. Yeah. Right. One more thing I sort of want to cover, because we were going into if you want to start your own YouTube channel. Again, have a passion for the things you do. If you look at the channels that get the viral video hits, that don't get them consistently, Casey Neistat, great example. He's getting those 50 million view videos quite regularly, but different story. But those channels that have like 10 subscribers, one video that has 65 million views, and others that have 50. That's not where you want to be. Yes, you might have made a nice penny with that one video, but that is not sustainable. And that is mostly up to luck. There have been studies, there have been attempts, there have been tries of predicting how a video will go viral. They weren't really able to nail it down. So again, that's something of, you know, trying to create viral content, trying to create one-off content. It's not going to work. Try and build an audience, try and maintain that audience, make consistent good content. And you know, it's sort of hard once you get into like one area or one niche of content. You can't really escape from that. I couldn't start out making I don't know, hiking videos on the channel. I'd lose subscribers within a week. I'd be, the channel would be over. But like, you know, you do have to stick with that. That is something you should keep in mind, but you should have that niche for yourself. All right. 8 hours without eating last stream. Do I not care about my health? I was actually consuming. Well, I did head upstairs and grab the snack, and I was consuming Joyland. Yeah, so not a problem. What makes more? So apparently people are really interested in how I make money, because it is something that I also had no idea about before I started into this. I mean, what is this? When I got into YouTube as a full-time thing, I sort of had a rough idea of how things were going. The way they're going right now is different to that. Zisha, I'm not gonna try that last name. What makes more money for you? Patreon, YouTube, or donations? Depends. So donations are really fluctuating. If you're seeing the Twitch streamers, game streamers, oh yeah, copyright. That's a good topic I sort of want to cover. If you're seeing them, they the big streamers get like $1,000 per stream. Sometimes they get like a few bucks. That is really inconsistent. That wouldn't be something to rely on. Which reminds me, there have been a few donations. I'm sorry if I missed those. That's not something to rely on. Patreon is great because it tells you the number. If you head over to patreon.com/toms3dp, you can see exactly how much I get paid through Patreon every month. That is just a monthly thing. Unless I completely screw up and like lose half of my patrons in a month because I did something stupid. I don't know. That is just consistent. That is much better than getting a one-time $1,000 donation. And lastly, YouTube AdSense is mostly consistent if you keep putting out content, but it's also it can taper away really quickly. So Patreon, really good thing. Next up would be AdSense, and then donations, which are more or less random. Not saying I'm not appreciating them, but they are very unpredictable. But what you've missed are affiliate links. I just want to point that out again. I recently signed up to Genius Link service, which basically combines all the Amazon affiliate. If you don't know what Amazon affiliate programs are, like the number one affiliate program worldwide. You put a link to Amazon, you put your tag in there. So whenever you see that those websites, top 10 best lawn mowing robots, and they seem to be completely void of any real content and just have those big buy on Amazon now buttons, that's how they make their money. When you click that button, buy the product, they get between 4 and 12% of the revenue. And that's exactly how I make a big chunk of my monthly income as well, which is affiliate programs from Amazon, eBay, MetaHackers. I go through the AliExpress. Did I miss one? I don't know. Just having that, having that link, for example, Needle Files, the most recent video, having the links that takes you to AliExpress for everyone who doesn't have an affiliate program in their country that I'm signed up to, or taking you to Amazon.com, Amazon.de for those specific products. And if you buy something, I get a kickback from them. So yeah, that is a huge thing. I do have an Amazon.uk link. I will put it up on the Support Me page pretty quickly, or pretty recently. Soon, that's the word I'm looking for. Yes, taxes. So, Jetman, text. It's never a gift. The thing is, people were saying, for example, on Patreon, hey, if I donated or if I pledged $10 a month to you on Patreon, you would only be receiving $6.50. That is true. But the good thing is Patreon takes a part of my tax load off of me. So the number you're seeing on Patreon is actually a lot lower than what people are actually putting into it. The thing is, where to start? I pay VAT on anything I earn. Unless, of course, it's from outside of Germany, actually. Any revenue I make outside of Germany, any revenue that is taken care of by, for example, Patreon, when it comes to VAT, I don't have to pay myself. So, again, that's the reason why you're putting in $10 and I'm only getting $6.50 out of it. VAT and other taxes that I don't have to pay from that. But as usual, anything I make, whether it's affiliate programs, YouTube AdSense, anything else I make as an income, I have to fully pay tax. I do have to pay health insurance from that. I do have to pay into the German retirement fund, just like a regular employment. So, yeah. That's just, any money, like Bo is saying, any money is income, is tax. Definitely. Can I add an UK affiliate link? Yes, I have one. I'll put it there. Yes, Mega Making Genius is a paid service, but it's only like $10 a month, which is okay. I only review big names or do startups with a good idea get a chance. Oh, Munhey. What a creative name. So obviously we have a big name product right here. This is the Ultimaker 3. I got that for review. Actually, it turns out I'll be able to keep it as a permanent loaner. So it's not mine, but I do get to use it. Right here we have a printer bot Play. Right here we have a Hobby King. That's on frame. Okay, Hobby King Fabricator Mini. This is the Atom 3D 2.0. That's the Loadspot Mini. All reasonably big companies. Maybe Atom is probably the smallest one of those. The thing is, the products I consider for review, again, just like sponsors, I have a choice. I can decline sponsors and I can decline product reviews. Again, product reviews are a bunch of work, especially when you factor in assembling a printer. When I do a review, when I accept a product for review, I do factor in whether or not the company has... I'm looking at the TiVo right now. I do factor in whether or not that company has the ability to keep making that product at a consistent quality, or if they're going to be changing it around every few months, because then a review would be pointless. If I'm reviewing version 2016.8 and they make 2016.12 in 3 months, then it's pointless. It's going to be a different product. So that's sort of what I want to get into it. Kickstarter products are, off reach. They are not something I want to get into that often or ever as far as reviews go, because Kickstarter, as it turns out, and crowdfunding in general are very often delivering something completely different to what you pledged and fairly different to what you got as a show model. And Ulysses Walker asking, how do you get sponsors or items for reviewing? That's a good question. That is a question that Linus Tech Tips also answered a while ago. How do you get products for review? It's probably less so creating a YouTube channel and asking people to send you stuff. That's not going to work. People aren't just going to send you random products. Maybe if you're like talking to a retailer that's next door and you can borrow some stuff, that could work. But for me, it's working the other way around. companies are approaching me and saying, hey, we've got this product, would you want to review it? Because they've seen what I've already put out. I started with hold on. What was my first video? I don't want to say anything wrong here. Was it the Rams review? Holy crap. But the beginning of my YouTube channel, how I got to 10,000 subscribers, was always about guides, about educating people, and not about reviews. Those were there too, but only for the stuff I already had. So if you want to get into that entire reviewing thing, this is just quoting Linus Tech Tips here, start by reviewing the stuff you already have. If you have a 3D printer, if you have some sort of board, if you have any software you want to review, go ahead, do that. Show what you can do, show what you can produce, and the companies are just going to come to you. Part-time Ronin. Again, about money. Why am I talking so much about money today? I missed all the donations. Okay. After this, right away. How much money do I spend on producing YouTube videos per month? So that is expenses versus income. Is that the other part of that? Expenses per month. So I do have a subscription to Adobe Premiere Pro Creative Cloud, which is $60 a month. I do have I'm going to keep that. I do have the subscription to Genius Link, $10 a month. I do buy new gear regularly. So I just bought a bunch of USB batteries, USB cables, filament. You wouldn't think I'd actually buy filament, but I do buy filament when I need it for stuff that isn't related to my YouTube printing stuff. I don't want to use the stuff that I get for review for free for other client printed stuff or that sort of. I do buy filament, I do buy consumables, I do buy camera gear. So I don't know, last year, 2016, I probably spent, including like computer hard drives. Hard drives are pretty expensive because you do need a lot if you're filming in 4K. I probably spent a good 2,000 or 3,000 euros on YouTube equipment that is just like the everyday. It's probably more than that. Just the everyday stuff that you need. So if you want to do it as a full-time, as a big production, more or less, it's not cheap. It's not free. So consider that. But again, you don't need all of that I'm doing here. And it's the same thing. A lot of video producers are saying. Most of the stuff you're purchasing as a video creator isn't because you need it. It's because it's making your life easier. That's why I have the Creative Cloud subscription. It makes my life easier, literally. And you can get away with hacking together lights, using a cheap camera, if you're looking at some of my first videos, I'm literally using a $1 eBay microphone. And it worked. It worked perfectly fine. It was better than the onboard camera. A $1 clip-on microphone. You can listen to that. If you put a bit of audio processing on that, it would sound great. But you don't need all that. You can hack it together. If you have a bit of time to spend on it, if you have a bit more time per video to post-process stuff, to edit and to correct colors and stuff, you can get away with a lot cheaper than that. Yeah, and as Nilvin is saying, once you have the equipment, the overhead is relatively low. That is true. Eric Lone is saying 4K video is about 1 gigabyte a second. Not quite. Studio tour, yeah, I did show a bit behind the scenes once. So yeah, donations, today's stream. Sorry, I've missed all you guys. Let's check that. Dominic, 2 times a year, thank you. 3D Printing Guru, that was probably $10 or something. Thank you for that as well. And another $20 or so. Your recent troubleshoot, this is refreshing. Your recent troubleshooting guide really helped, from Nicholas Booth. Thank you for that. Vapescaped, okay. Thanks, I'm a total noob and a meathead with tech, but your Marlin vids are indispensable. I will need to update the auto bed leveling one. That one is getting pretty dated. Daniel Kruger is saying with 10 years more taxes for you. Well, screw you. Right. 0.5 gig a minute. Let's see. So I guess you can do the math. How much space does 4K video need? And it does. First of all, it does depend on the camera. These Panasonic G7s, they record at 100 megabit per second plus audio, which isn't, compared to video, it really isn't that much. Isn't that much. Yeah, 100 gigabit, which is 12.5 megabit, 12.5 megabyte per second. So times 60, and there you have it. That's your how many gigabytes or megabytes of video material you produce per minute recording. That's it. Okay. Dual extrusion. Yes, dual extrusion is something I will definitely get into. What do you need to? By the way, these questions are great, and I think having them on, having them on screen will help in the recording. Again, if you're watching the recording, let me know if this is working out for you. What do you need for live streaming? You need a webcam and you need a computer. Sort of. Maker's Muse does it really low end. Maker's Muse does it with I think he's using the Logitech C9 something, 900 something. Working out pretty well for him. He's using the large diaphragm microphone, which does sound awesome. I'm just using the lavalier mic. Different sound profile, but you can get away with again that cheap $1 eBay microphone. Totally works. That's all you need to get started. Of course, what I'm using here is going to be radically different from what you're starting out. I'm using one Panasonic G7, two Panasonic G7. That should be the new standard counting scheme. One Panasonic, two Panasonic. I'm using the Ava Media capture cards, a quad-core laptop, OBS Studio, a second monitor. That's actually one of my editing monitors are propped up vertically here. Logitech G13, which is hidden behind chat for camera hotkeys. I got that from a viewer who sent it to me for Christmas. Again, thanks for that. You can go totally overkill on it, but yeah. And of course, as C1 Nemfortic is pointing out, you need a good upload speed. That is true. I have 10 Mbit upload here, which is okay for full HD. Right. Let's see. I think, yeah, not sponsored by Panasonic. It's not, but I love their stuff. Panasonic is really kicking ass these days, especially with the new GH5, which is sort of expensive, but the G7 or G80 or G8, I have no idea what it's called internationally. I think it's a G80. But the G7 awesome cameras, would fully recommend. Copyright. Let's talk about copyright before we end this stream. Copyright. In the times of Facebook, it is hard to teach people what copyright means and how it applies. Let's start with the basic concept. Copyright is a right the creator has on any intellectual property, which is usually applied to video, audio, text, images, that sort of stuff. Art in a extended definition. Copyright does not apply to functional physical objects unless they are also a design piece. So the shape of this mug, cup, is it a mug if it's taller? The shape of this mug is not copyrighted. However, the design on it might be. Same reason why you can buy knockoff car parts without them violating any sort of copyright, but you can't, or you shouldn't, buy a knockoff Deadpool Blu-ray. Anything you create as a creative person, see, it has that same word in there. Anything you create, whether it's a photograph, whether it is an essay, whether it's a video or just a sound clip, belongs to you. It has your copyright to it. You own the copyright to the thing, which means nobody else is allowed to use it. There are a few special rules depending on the country you're living in, but nobody else is allowed to use it for their own purposes. And the core term of that is nobody else is allowed to perform it publicly, which is sort of saying, yeah, I create a YouTube video, I upload it to YouTube, somebody else takes it, re-uploads it. They're not allowed to do that usually. Same on Facebook. You go on a website, you go on tom3d.org, you see the title image of a post, and you're saying, yeah, this is cool. This looks okay. I'm gonna write my own blog post and use that same image. Also, not okay. And people seem to forget that copyright is a thing, unfortunately. I've just had a channel copy 20 or 30 of my videos, re-upload them. I do license my videos as Creative Commons attribution share alike, which means you can use them in whichever way, shape, or form you seem appropriate. But there are two terms. Whatever content you create with them does also have to be licensed as Creative Commons share alike attribution. And you have to point out that you've used content from me. That is all I ask. So that is all I ask. So that's the special case with my content. However, anything else, including like music people use in their videos, is technically a breach of copyright. If you download a song from iTunes and put it in your video, YouTube is probably going to be smart enough to pick that up and say, yeah, you've used this song, we're going to disable monetization for you because you are in breach of copyright, or do some other stuff with the video. But yeah, copyright is a thing, and there are a few special cases. If you want to start a gaming channel, technically the footage of that game you're creating, you're capturing, doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the game's publisher or developer. I think it belongs to the publisher. And these days most publishers do allow you to use their games or capturings of their games for YouTube, for Twitch, for that sort of stuff. But technically you wouldn't be able to use those. Nintendo's pretty strict about that, or they still are pretty strict about that. So when starting a YouTube channel or starting anything else that has a creative background, whether it's a SoundCloud, are they called accounts, channels? Whether it's SoundCloud, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Instagram, take a second to read up about copyright. It's really helpful, and it will save you a lot of headache later on. Okay, very good. I think we've got it pretty much covered. Links to other people's videos, 3D Printing Meathead is asking. That is totally okay. The US also has a concept of fair use, which allows you to essentially report on and criticize, critique other content, and it's getting sort of into a gray area there if you're using like movie excerpts in a YouTube video and just say, yeah, this like this, and then show the Deadpool scene, the aforementioned one. In the US that is sort of okay, but internationally, like the European Union and most countries in Europe don't have that term. So technically, if you were just to show one scene of that frame in your own video, it's over for you. So yeah, again, that applies to intellectual properties, designs, videos, audio, that sort of stuff. It doesn't apply to physical objects. So for example, the Ultimaker 3 doesn't have its source files published yet, but since this isn't an art piece, that's the way I understand it, this isn't legal advice. Since this isn't an art piece, you could measure the parts and clone them and copy them, because it's sort of getting spongy there. The copyright only applies to the digital files, but don't quote me on that. That's something a lawyer will have to find out. Yeah, and just to end this with do a recap of the entire stream. Haha. Just to end this with something that is related to 3D printing. One of my favorite pieces of YouTube gear is this thing. Actually, we can use this thing as a stand. Yay! This is a 3D printed slider. I might have shown it off before. So that's something I've pretty much put together on my own for the most part. Well, I did use, it doesn't have the plate on it. I did use a few libraries, credit where credit is due, and you might hear the stepper white in the background. I do apologize for all of you who noticed that. But essentially, this is a motorized slider. This is one of my favorite. Oh, okay, so the bolts do stick through here. This is one of my favorite pieces of filmmaking equipment. It does have the flywheel on here because originally I was using this without the motor. I still kept it on here, but as long as like the stepper driver is doing its thing, you don't need the flywheel. This is just an open build rail with an Arduino Mega that I had sitting around, a 3.5-inch touchscreen, a quick release plate for the Manfrotto system I'm using, a Sony MPF battery, and yeah, belt in the inside here, stepper motor on the end. That's it. Awesome slider. Any sliding shot you're seeing is made with this thing. Pretty cool. Plus, I specifically made it with the intention of not just having sliding shots that are like these faster slides, but if I pause this thing and we actually crank this up, so what it's showing me right here, maybe we can see this on the banging up the Ultimaker. That's great. Is it this one? Oh, that doesn't work. Cool. But I do have that second. Yeah. Autofocus while doing live, while using the live HTML I output on these cameras is a bit sketchy. But yeah, essentially what it's saying right here there is the entire runtime for the length of the rail. So from one end to the other, that's 2 days. The speed and battery charge level, I can change the direction by tapping the screen because this is a touch screen. And essentially, if I put it to like a lot of time, a long time. Oh, camera's trying to focus. 8 days or so. So if I just needed, there we go. If I just needed like a 20 centimeter area of the thing, I'd put it on 8 days, and that would be 2 days or so. Absolutely awesome cinematic tool, and it's 3D printed, obviously. So right there, that end is 3D printed. Has the belt tensioner in there. That entire bracket here is 3D printed. The battery holder for the Sony MPF even is 3D printed. Pretty proud of that design. Fits really well, and that's overexposed and really an older print. But this entire bracket back here is also 3D printed. One of the projects I'm most happy with. Right, but let's see if there's anything else that relates to YouTubing. Had an LCD2F. Oh, sorry, we're not talking about 3D printing today. Right. I guess that's going to do it for today. So again, casual stream, nothing really big world moving to talk about. But just as a quick outlook, did you reprint that motor mount? Yes, I did print that motor mount with the Mark I, Mark II. Actually over here somewhere, I think. Where in the back? Somewhere. There it is. That's the reprinted one on the Mark Forged. Same thing. Idle mouse. Yeah, which mouse is that? That is an ancient Logitech. I have no idea. MX something. Horrible mouse. Don't buy it. Right. Good. That's gonna do it for today. Again, Ultimaker 3 review is gonna be something I'll be working on next week, or actually right now. It's like 10:30 p.m. I'll start scripting a bit for the review. Yeah. Again, thanks for the tips. Thanks for being here, and I will see you relatively soon. Maybe next weekend. I don't know. Ain't It A should be here sometime. That they said they shipped it, but I don't know if it's getting here. We'll see. Yeah. A few questions I want to answer, but let's stop the print right here. Again, have a nice rest of a Sunday. If you're in the part of the world where it's still Sunday, if it's already Monday for you, sorry. If you have to go to work and aren't self-employed, do have the advantage there. But yeah, the Amazon affiliate links, I'm gonna put the UK one on the site soon. Subscribe to the channel, Patreon, sign off things, whatever. Have a nice Sunday, and I will see you soon. Where's my YouTube live controls? Holy crap. There it is. If I end this now, is this gonna be... We'll see. It's synced with the player, I think.